I still remember the exact moment I picked up the phone to call my son, hoping to hear some good news. I wanted to ask him when the wedding was going to be. After all, I had been waiting for this day for years, planning, dreaming, and hoping to be part of one of the most important moments in his life. But what I heard instead was a sentence that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. "Oh, we got married yesterday," my daughter-in-law said, her voice calm but with a chilling smile that I could almost see through the phone. "We only invited special people." Those words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Special people. I, who had spent the last 3 years paying their rent, buying their furniture, filling their fridge when they had nothing to eat, was not special enough to be invited. I stood there in my own living room, the phone heavy in my hand, watching my son avoid my gaze as if I were invisible. Lena, my daughter-in-law, was sitting comfortably on the sofa I had bought for them, wearing the pale pink dress I had picked out for her wedding day. That dress, along with the new shoes and the hope of being part of their celebration, hung uselessly in my closet. I had spent $200 on that dress, imagining how beautiful I would look in the wedding photos, pictures where I would never appear. For weeks, I had planned every detail, set aside money for a $1,000 gift, and called my sister Diana in Chicago to share the good news. I had cleaned my house from top to bottom, thinking they might come celebrate with me after the ceremony. All of that collapsed in a second with those 4 poisoned words. Only special people. Max finally lifted his gaze and said in a rehearsed voice, "Mom, it was an intimate thing, very small. Just the 2 of us and the witnesses. But I knew it was a lie. I saw the photos on social media. Lena's parents proudly posing next to the bride and groom, her siblings toasting with champagne, the white dress I had helped finance with the $800 I gave her last month for personal expenses. I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see." A week later, Lena called me with a completely different voice, desperate, pleading. "Renat, the rent is overdue. The landlord is pressuring us. You forgot to make the transfer." Her voice trembled as if the world were ending. I was silent for a few seconds, remembering all the times I had rushed to the bank to make that transfer, canceled my own plans to make sure they had a roof over their heads, eaten beans and rice so I could give them money for their desires. And now, after excluding me from the most important moment of their lives, they had the audacity to call me as if nothing had happened. "Lena," I said calmly, surprising even myself, "didn't I warn you that I only help special people?" The silence on the other end was so deep I could hear my own heart beating. For the first time in years, it was not I who was trembling, but her. "Renat, I don't understand," she stammered. "We were always special to you. You're like a second mom to me." Lies. All lies, wrapped in that sweet voice she only used when she needed something. The same voice she used to ask for money for the wedding dress, the honeymoon, the rings, all of which I had helped finance without knowing I would never see the ceremony where they were exchanged. For years, I had felt like I was walking on eggshells, weighing every word, every gesture, every gift, hoping to get a crumb of affection from my own son. I was the perfect mother, the obliging mother-in-law, the silent provider who never protested when they treated me like I was invisible. But that phrase, "only special people," awakened something in me that had been dormant for far too long. I sat on my bed that night and cried, not tears of sadness, but tears of anger, frustration, and humiliation. I cried for all the times they made me feel that my love was a burden, my presence a hindrance, my money the only thing I had to offer. I cried for the foolish mother I had been, for the woman who lost herself, trying to be indispensable to those who considered her dispensable. When I woke up the next morning, something inside me had changed. It wasn't just the pain of betrayal, it was something deeper, colder. I looked at myself in the mirror. The same tired eyes, the same wrinkles telling stories of years of giving love without getting it back. But there was something else in my gaze, a hardness I didn't recognize, a determination buried under years of compliance. I made coffee as I had every morning for 40 years. But this time, I didn't think about calling Max to ask how he slept. I didn't check my phone hoping for an apology. For the first time in a long time, I was my own first concern. I sat at the table where I had planned surprises, counted bills for their expenses, and cried silently when they treated me with indifference. Now this table would witness something different. I took out my checkbook and bank statements and started to do the math. I wanted to see exactly how much I had given away. Rent, $500 a month for 36 months. $18,000 food and supplies, $200 a month, $7,200 birthday. Christmas, anniversary gifts, at least $3,000. Lena's medical emergencies. $800 car loan they never paid back. $2,500 air conditioner repair. $600 living room furniture. $1,200, $33,400. That was the sum of my generosity. $33,400 taken from my husband's inheritance, my pension, my savings, money I had set aside for my last years in peace. And what was it for? To be treated like a stranger on my son's wedding day. The phone rang. Max's name flashed on the screen. Normally, my heart would have pounded as I ran to answer, hoping for an apology, an explanation. But this time, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then silence. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Lena, I let it ring too. Then a text from Max. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. I deleted it without replying. At 2 p.m., I decided to go for a walk. I hadn't done that in months without a purpose. No bank transfers, no supermarket runs, no pharmacy visits. Just a walk for myself. I passed the park where I had taken Max as a child. I remembered the sweet boy who hugged me tight and said I was the best mom in the world. When had he become this man who treated me like an ATM with feelings? When did I start confusing love with money? When did I believe I had to buy my son's affection? At the bank, I stopped in front of the door. Mr. Klein, the branch manager, saw me and waved. He had processed every transfer I made to Max and Lena. He had watched my account drain month after month. I went inside and walked to his office. Mr. Klein, I said, I need to cancel the automatic transfers. He looked surprised. For 3 years, these transfers have been as regular as sunrise. Are you sure? Yes, I want to cancel everything and protect my accounts. No one else will have access to my money. While he processed the cancellations, my phone didn't stop ringing. Max, Lena, Max again. It was as if they had radar for when their income was in danger. I turned the phone off. Mrs. Richter, Mr. Klein said, handing me the papers. I hope you're not being pressured to make these changes. His concern was genuine. More genuine than any interest Max had shown in me recently. I'm not being pressured, I said. I finally opened my eyes. I want to stop pressuring myself. When I left the bank, I felt strangely light, as if I had left a heavy burden behind. For the first time in years, my money was mine. No obligations to people who saw me as a resource, not a person. I thought about all the things I hadn't done to please Max and Lena, the trips I skipped, the friends I lost, the hobbies I gave up. Every dollar spent on myself was $1 less for their needs. When I got home, 3 cars were parked in front of my door, Max's, Lena's, and one I didn't recognize. I could see movement inside through the windows. My blood ran cold. They had keys. I had trusted them. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Inside, Max sat on my sofa, head in hands. Lena paced like a caged animal. An older man I didn't know was going through my personal papers. What's happening? I asked, my voice louder than I expected. They looked at me like I was the intruder. Lena spoke first, desperation in her voice. Renate, thank God you're here. We need to talk. Mr. Fisher is from the law firm we consulted. My situation? I asked calmly. I'm doing perfectly fine. Max looked up, eyes filled with panic. Mom, we went to the bank. They told us you canceled all transfers and blocked our access. We don't understand why. Mr. Fisher, a man in his 50s with a professional smile, extended his hand. Mrs. Richter, I'm Dr. Fisher, a family law attorney. Your children are concerned about your mental well-being and have asked me to assess the situation. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I gathered my papers. These are my private documents. You have no right to look at them without my consent, Max interrupted, condescending. We're worried about you. Your behavior has been strange lately. Lena tried to take my hand with fake tenderness. Renate, honey, we know you're under stress. Maybe loneliness is affecting you. The word confusion echoed in my head like an alarm. Now I understood why they brought the lawyer. It wasn't to help me, it was to declare me mentally incompetent and take control of my finances. I am not confused, I said firmly, silencing them. Dr. Fisher spoke calmly. Mrs. Richter, your children have a right to intervene if they believe your financial decisions are impaired. They have documented concerning behaviors. Concerning behaviors. I laughed bitterly. Like what? Deciding. My money belongs to me? Refusing to finance their lives while they treat me like trash? Lena jumped up, outraged. We never treated you badly. Your family, everything you have will belong to us one day anyway. We're just speeding up the process. There it was, the naked truth. To them, I was already dead. I was just an ATM with legs. Out, I said, pointing to the door. All three of you get out of my house. Max stood angry. Mom, we can't just leave. We have obligations, rent, car payments, credit cards you co-signed. I can, I said, voice rising. Who says I can't? For years, I paid rent. Not in my name. Filled a fridge where I wasn't welcome. Financed a life that had no place for me. Mr. Fisher placed a folder on the table. We have documents to facilitate this transition. A power of attorney to manage your finances temporarily. I took the folder and threw it in the trash. The only transition here is yours, to the front door. Lena cried, but not with sadness, frustration, and rage. You can't do this to us, Renate. We made plans based on your support. Obligations based on my money, I replied, not my well-being, happiness, or company. Max tried to approach, but I stepped back. He was no longer the boy who ran to my arms. He was a man who saw me as an obstacle. We made mistakes, he said, voice soft. The wedding was a misunderstanding. Lena was nervous. We can fix this if you become reasonable. Reasonable? That word tasted bitter. Reasonable meant continuing to pay for their lives while they treated me like a stranger, pretending it didn't hurt to be excluded from my son's wedding. Mr. Fisher packed his papers. This isn't over. Your family has legal options. If you make irrational decisions, a judge can assign a guardian. His words hit me like stones. They wanted to declare me incompetent to steal my money. Do your research before threatening a 71-year-old woman who has managed her finances for 40 years, raised her son alone, and supported 2 capable adults, I said. Lena stopped crying and looked at me coldly. This won't stay like this, Renate. We have rights and lawyers. Hire all the lawyers you want, I said. With your own money, because mine is no longer available. They left with wounded dignity. Max warned, this will end badly. You'll be alone when you need care. I replied with sadness and clarity, I am already alone. The difference is, it's by my choice, not your neglect. The silence that night was the most beautiful I'd heard in years, the silence of freedom. I couldn't sleep, but not from sadness, from adrenaline. I had reclaimed control of my life. At 6 a.m., I was dressed and ready. My first stop was the office of Mr. Weber, an attorney I'd met years ago. What your children tried is elder financial abuse, a federal crime, he said. Entering your house without permission and reviewing your documents is a violation. His words calmed and worried me. Calmed because I wasn't crazy. Worried because it was serious. We must document everything, he said. Every transfer, gift, pressure. We'll change your will to protect your assets. We spent 3 hours reviewing my records. He whistled at the $33,400 total. With this money, you could have lived comfortably, traveled, enjoyed retirement. Instead, you financed 2 adults who didn't respect you. When I left, I had a plan. Change locks, install security cameras, open a new bank account, and live the life I postponed. At the hardware store, Mr. Summer asked, "Another emergency with your son?" "No," I said. "This time it's for my house. I need the best locks and a security system. Price is no issue." While choosing, Ethan, who installs cameras, arrived. "Providence," I told him. "I want the full system installed tomorrow." That afternoon, Lena called from an unknown number. I had blocked her. "Renate, please don't hang up. We want to make it up to you. Let's have a special dinner to celebrate our wedding." The manipulation was obvious. "How much rent do you owe?" I asked. Silence. 2 months, $1,000 total. "I'm not just calling for that. We miss you." "Do you miss me or my money?" I asked. "Both," she admitted. "If I'm so important, why wasn't I invited? Why no call that didn't ask for money? When was the last time you called just to ask how I was?" Silence. We both knew the answer. Never. "Lena, I only help special people. You made your choice when you excluded me. Now I'm making mine." I hung up and turned off my phone. That afternoon, I went to the beauty salon I hadn't visited in over a year. "Mrs. Richter, you look beautiful. But more than that, you look free. Did something good happen?" "Yes, Cynthia. I finally learned to say no." I treated myself to a full makeover, cut, color, manicure, pedicure. For the first time in years, I spent money on myself without guilt. While Cynthia talked about her life, children, and dreams, I enjoyed a conversation that didn't revolve around Max and Lena's needs. That night, I went to bed feeling hopeful for the first time in years. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. The weight of obligation, the constant anxiety about their needs, had lifted. I looked out my window and saw the sun shining, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe freely. But that peace was short-lived. When I returned home that afternoon, I noticed 3 cars parked in front of my house again. My heart skipped a beat, but this time I was prepared. The security cameras I had installed just days before showed me who was inside: Max, Lena, and 2 other people I didn't recognize. They were agitated, talking, and pointing at my house. I didn't get out of the car. Instead, I called Mr. Weber, my lawyer. "Mrs. Richter," he said calmly, "don't get out of the car. I'm on my way, and I've already called the police. They are not allowed on your property." Minutes later, 2 police patrol cars arrived. I watched from the safety of my car as officers spoke to Max and Lena. Max gestured angrily. Lena cried. But this time, their tears didn't move me. One officer approached my window. "Ma'am, you can get out safely. Your visitors will leave immediately." As I stepped out, Max shouted from across the street, "This is ridiculous! We're your family! You can't call the police on your own son!" I looked at him calmly. Family doesn't threaten lawsuits for mental incompetence. Family doesn't break into homes without permission. Family doesn't treat their mothers like ATMs. Lena screamed, "You're going to pay us everything you owe. We have bills you co-signed for. You can't just abandon us." Mr. Weber stepped forward. "Any future communication must go through my office. I suggest you consult an attorney before making collection threats. My client has full documentation of all voluntary payments made over the last 3 years." I watched them drive away, defeated but not giving up. I knew this wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt confident. I had professional help, emotional support from Eleanor, and mental clarity about what was right and wrong. That evening, Eleanor invited me to her house for dinner. I met her daughter, and I saw what a healthy family relationship looked like. They spoke respectfully, asked about each other's lives, and laughed together. Not once did anyone ask for money. "I wanted that with Max too," I confessed to Eleanor after her daughter left. "Maybe you'll get it one day," she said. "But first, he has to learn you're a person who deserves respect, not just a source of income." For the first time in weeks, I went to bed feeling hopeful. The next few days were peaceful. The cameras showed Max and Lena driving past my house, several times a day, sometimes slowly, sometimes parking for a few minutes, but never getting out. It was as if they were studying my routine, looking for the perfect moment to strike again. Mr. Weber advised me to document every visit. "Their persistence will work in our favor," he said. "Every time they show up after being told not, To approach strengthens our case for a permanent restraining order. On Friday morning, I was having breakfast when the doorbell rang. The cameras showed a well-dressed young woman with a folder and a professional smile. I didn't recognize her, but something told me this wasn't a social visit. "Good morning, Mrs. Richter," she said as I opened the door. "I'm a social investigator from the Office of Senior Services. We received a report that you may be at risk and need a wellness check." My blood ran cold. Max and Lena had escalated the situation. It was no longer just private lawyer threats. Now the government was involved. "Can I see your ID?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Of course." She showed me an official badge. "I'm Mrs. Schmidt. May I come in and talk?" I let her in, knowing refusal would only make things worse. Mrs. Schmidt sat in my living room and took out a form. "We received reports of significant changes in your financial behavior, cutting off communication with family, and signs of paranoia due to installing security systems. We were also told you refused medical and legal help from loved ones." Every word was carefully chosen to paint me as a mentally disturbed old woman. I recognized Lena's handwriting in the report. She had always been skilled at manipulating words. "Mrs. Schmidt," I said with all the dignity I could muster, "I'd like to call my lawyer before answering any questions." "This isn't a legal interrogation," she said. "If you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem." The phrase, "if you have nothing to hide," infuriated me. It was the same logic abusers use to justify invasions of privacy. "Miss Schmidt, I'm calling my lawyer. You can wait or come back another day, but I won't answer without legal representation." I called Mr. Weber, who arrived within 20 minutes. His expression hardened when he saw the social worker. "Miss Schmidt," he said after checking her ID, "I hope you have a court order. My client is under legal representation, and any unauthorized investigation is harassment." "We have reports from concerned family members," she replied nervously. "Which family?" Mr. Weber asked dryly. "The same family that tried to get her to sign a power of attorney without representation. The same family that broke into her house and checked her documents. The same family that excluded her from important events while living off her money." Mr. Weber placed a folder on the table. "Here is documentation of financial and emotional abuse. $33,400 withdrawn in 3 years, social exclusion, and emotional blackmail." Mrs. Schmidt reviewed the documents with growing discomfort. The information she had didn't match the reality before her. "Mrs. Richter," she said finally, "can you explain why you abruptly stopped financial support?" "Because I discovered they were using me," I replied simply. "I was not a mother but a bank account. I was tired of financing people who saw me as an obstacle." "Don't you feel responsible to help your family?" she asked. "That responsibility ended when my son turned 18, I said firmly. "He is 35, married and capable of supporting himself. Financing his adult life is my choice, and I've chosen not to anymore." Mr. Weber added, "Would you consider it normal for a 35-year-old adult to be unable to pay rent without help from a 71-year-old mother?" Mrs. Schmidt was silent, reevaluating the situation. "Do you manage your finances completely?" she asked. "Yes. I can show bank statements, investments, tax payments. I live independently, keep my house clean, drive, and have healthy social relationships. I take only vitamins and occasional aspirin." Mr. Weber said, "She recently underwent medical exams and is in perfect mental and physical condition." Mrs. Schmidt closed her folder. "Based on this, I see no indication you need intervention. I will close the case." After she left, Mr. Weber and I sat silently. "This will escalate," he said. "Max and Lena are desperate. They may file a lawsuit for incompetence." The thought terrified me. "They could take control of my money. What evidence do they have?" I asked. "They have statements from 3 witnesses claiming erratic behavior, unpaid doctor bills, and medications hoarded without taking them." "But that's false. Who are the witnesses?" "Lena, a neighbor named Mr. Davis, and your pharmacist." "Mr. Green. I needed to talk to Mr. Green. We went to the pharmacy. Mr. Green was nervous." "Mrs. Richter." "Your daughter-in-law came weeks ago, worried about your medications. She said you acted strangely. What did you tell her?" "I said you only buy vitamins and aspirin, but she insisted it was proof you weren't taking care of yourself." Mr. Weber asked, "Did you sign a statement?" "I thought it was for insurance." "I didn't know it was for a lawsuit." Lena's manipulation knew no bounds. I asked Mr. Green to write a statement clarifying I had no medication problems. He apologized for the misunderstanding. Next, we confronted Mr. Davis, the neighbor. He greeted us with hostility. "I understand you signed a statement about erratic behavior?" "Yes, she's been acting strange. Installing cameras, having strangers visit, yelling at family." I explained the cameras were for protection. Strangers were friends, and yelling was defending my home. "Do you know why?" I asked. "No, and I don't care," he said cruelly. His statement was based on superficial observations twisted maliciously. That evening, Mr. Weber and I planned our defense. "We need a psychiatric evaluation," he said. "Dr. Moore is an expert who can confirm your mental capacity." What if the judge is biased? The system isn't perfect, but we have solid evidence and motivation for their greed. The next day, I met Dr. Moore. A kind woman in her 50s, she asked questions and gave tests to assess memory, reasoning, financial understanding, and emotional health. After 2 hours, she said, "Your results are well above average. You are mentally competent." I asked why my family was doing this. "Classic elder financial exploitation," she said. "More common than people think." I left feeling validated but sad. The lawsuit was real and necessary. That afternoon, Eleanor organized a meeting with our garden club friends. They were outraged. "We will testify for you," Maria said. "Anyone can see you're doing great." "You're stronger than many 40-year-olds, Cynthia added. Alfreda, wise at 80, held my hands. Greedy children have tried to declare parents insane for money for generations. But you have documentation, legal support, and friends. Her words gave me hope. I was not alone. What hurts most is not losing money, but realizing I never had love, I confessed. True love can't be bought or sold, Alfreda said. If you had to pay, it was never real. Her words hit me like a bomb. I had bought attention, not love. I had financed an illusion. I told my new friends loneliness surrounded by unloving people is worse than being alone. They laughed and toasted to newfound wisdom. That night, I sat in my garden, stars shining brighter than ever. For the first time, I was financially alone with no obligations but to myself. Instead of fear, I felt excitement. I could travel, remodel, buy clothes, donate, invest in my future. Freedom tasted like hope. For the first time in years, I wanted to plan my future. For weeks, I settled into a new rhythm. Mornings filled with quiet breakfasts, afternoons spent tending my garden or painting again, something I had abandoned years ago. I felt a lightness I hadn't known in decades, a freedom that came from reclaiming my life and my dignity. But peace, as I had learned, was fragile. One Thursday morning, while I was carefully painting flowers on my new easel, Mr. Weber arrived at my door with a grim expression. I could feel the weight of bad news before he even spoke. "Renate," he said quietly, "Max and Lena have filed a formal lawsuit in family court. They're requesting to have a legal guardian assigned to you." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had feared this moment, but hearing it aloud made it terrifyingly real. They wanted to take control of my money, my life, my freedom. "Does that mean they can take control of my finances?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "If a judge finds you unable to manage your affairs, yes," he replied. "Max could be appointed your legal guardian with full control over your money." I sank into my sofa, the deepest betrayal I had ever felt settling over me like a dark cloud. My own son was trying to declare me incompetent to steal my money. What evidence do they have? I asked, desperate to understand. "They have statements from 3 witnesses claiming erratic behavior, unpaid doctor bills, and medications you supposedly hoard without taking them." "But that's all fabricated. Who are the witnesses?" I asked. "Lena, a neighbor named Mr. Davis, and your pharmacist, Mr. Green." I knew I had to confront them. We went to the pharmacy first. Mr. Green greeted me nervously. "Mrs. Richter, your daughter-in-law came in a few weeks ago, worried about your medications. She said you were acting strangely. What did you tell her?" "I told her you only buy vitamins and aspirin occasionally, but she insisted that was proof you weren't taking care of yourself." Mr. Weber asked, "Did you sign a statement?" "I thought it was for insurance. I didn't know it was for a lawsuit." Lena's manipulation knew no bounds. I asked Mr. Green to write a statement clarifying I had no medication problems. He apologized profusely. Next, we confronted Mr. Davis, the neighbor. He opened the door with obvious hostility. "I understand you signed a statement about erratic behavior?" "Yes, she's been acting strange. Installing cameras, having strangers visit, yelling at family. I explained the cameras were for protection. The strangers were friends, and the yelling was defending my home. Do you know why?" I asked. "No, and I don't care," he said cruelly. His statement was based on superficial observations twisted maliciously. That evening, Mr. Weber and I planned our defense. "We need a psychiatric evaluation," he said. "Dr. Moore is an expert who can confirm your mental capacity." "What if the judge is biased?" I asked. "The system isn't perfect, but we have solid evidence and motivation for their greed." The next day, I met Dr. Moore, a kind woman in her 50s. She asked questions and gave tests to assess memory, reasoning, financial understanding, and emotional health. After 2 hours, she said, "Your results are well above average. You are mentally competent." I asked why my family was doing this. "Classic elder financial exploitation," she said. "More common than people think." I left feeling validated, but sad. The lawsuit was real and necessary. That afternoon, Eleanor organized a meeting with our garden club friends. They were outraged. "We will testify for you," Maria said. "Anyone can see you're doing great." "You're stronger than many 40-year-olds, Cynthia added. Elfrida, wise at 80, held my hands. "Greedy children have tried to declare parents insane for money for generations. But you have documentation, legal support, and friends." Her words gave me hope. I was not alone. "What hurts most is not losing money, but realizing I never had love," I confessed. "True love can't be bought or sold," Elfrida said. "If you had to pay, it was never real." Her words hit me like a bomb. I had bought attention, not love. I had financed an illusion. I told my new friends loneliness surrounded by unloving people is worse than being alone. They laughed and toasted to newfound wisdom. That night, I sat in my garden, stars shining brighter than ever. For the first time, I was financially alone, with no obligations but to myself. Instead of fear, I felt excitement. I could travel, remodel, buy clothes, donate, invest in my future. Freedom tasted like hope. For the first time in years, I wanted to plan my future, but the battle was far from over. The lawsuit loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to strip away everything I had fought for. I knew I had to prepare. The trial date was set for 3 weeks later. I spent every day with Mr. Weber, reviewing documents, rehearsing testimony, and gathering evidence. I was determined to prove my competence and expose their greed. On the morning of the trial, I woke early, dressed in my best black suit, and looked in the mirror. I saw a woman transformed by pain and strength. Mr. Weber arrived at 7 a.m. to review our strategy. "Remember," he said, "the burden of proof is on them. They must prove incompetence. We just have to show you're not." "What if the judge is biased?" I asked. "Judge Miller has a reputation for fairness. He's dedicated to protecting the elderly." At 9 a.m., we arrived at the courthouse. In the hallway, I saw Max in a new suit probably bought for the occasion, and Lena dressed in black. As if at a funeral, when our eyes met, Max avoided mine. But Lena held my gaze coldly. Their lawyer was an older man with the confidence of someone used to winning. His opening statement was clear. "Portray me as a confused old woman manipulated by strangers." "Your Honor," he said solemnly, "Mrs. Richter has shown mental decline. She cut off financial support without reason, installed unnecessary security systems due to paranoia, and isolated herself under the influence of neighbors and lawyers. Every word twisted my empowerment into dementia, my freedom into manipulation." Then came their witnesses. Lena was first, her performance Oscar-worthy. She cried as she described my supposed decline. "Hostility and isolation, Your Honor," she said, trembling. "Renate has always been like a second mom. Seeing her decline is devastating. We want to help her. Lies wrapped in tears. Mr. Weber's cross-examination exposed cracks. Mrs. Schuster, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? Lena stammered. We talked about many things. Can you give a specific date? I don't remember. Is it true you married without inviting her? It was a small ceremony. Is it true you told her only special people were invited? Lena's face reddened. Those words were taken out of context. What context justifies telling your mother-in-law she's not special? She couldn't answer. Max was next. Seeing him swear to tell the truth while preparing to lie was painful. My mom has always been generous, he testified. But lately she's erratic and irrational. We believe she's manipulated. Mr. Weber's cross-examination was merciless. Max, how much money have you received in 3 years? I don't know. Does $400 sound right? Maybe. How many times have you visited without asking for money? Silence. Is it true you broke into her house and checked her documents? We were worried. Do you need your mother's help to pay rent at 35? Max couldn't answer. Mr. Davis testified about erratic behavior, but admitted he never spoke to me directly. His statements were based on superficial observations. Dr. Lehman testified my refusal to undergo evaluation was proof of decline. Mr. Weber submitted Dr. Moore's evaluation. Refuting this, our witnesses testified next. Mr. Green explained he was tricked into signing false statements. Dr. Moore confirmed my excellent mental state. Mr. Summer testified about my rational financial decisions. Eleanor and friends spoke of my clarity, vitality, and healthy relationships. Finally, I testified. I stood with dignity. Guided by Mr. Weber, I told the story of $400 spent, humiliation, manipulation, privacy violations, and legal threats. Why did you stop financial support? Mr. Weber asked. Because I realized I was not loved, I said clearly. It was a commercial transaction disguised as family. Do you regret it? Only that it took so long. Max's lawyer tried to paint me confused, but I answered with clarity. When he implied my new friendships manipulated me, I explained they were based on respect, not money. In closing, Max's lawyer claimed I was a victim of manipulation. Mr. Weber's rebuttal was devastating. Your Honor, this is not incompetence but a woman freeing herself from abuse. No real medical evidence was presented. The plaintiffs are frustrated because their income source has chosen independence. Judge Miller retired to deliberate for 2 hours that felt like years. When he returned, his expression was serious but clear. Mrs. Richter is in full possession of her faculties. Psychiatric evaluations confirm competence. Her financial decisions, though painful, are rational and within her rights. The lawsuit is motivated by financial interest, not concern. The request for guardianship is denied. I had won, not just the lawsuit, but my freedom, dignity, and right to live free from abuse. As we left, I saw Max and Lena talking angrily with their lawyer. Lena gave me a look of pure hatred. Max looked at me once, and I saw a flicker of regret too late. That night, Eleanor hosted a celebration with friends. We toasted justice, freedom, and sisterhood. Renate, Alfreda said, you didn't just win a trial. You won back your life. She was right. For the first time in years, the future was mine. I could travel, love, create, live without fear or guilt. 3 months later, I sold my house and moved to a beautiful apartment near the city center. I donated half my money to organizations protecting elders from abuse. With the rest, I lived the life I dreamed of. I traveled Europe, took art classes, and volunteered. I never heard from Max and Lena again. I heard they moved to a smaller apartment and Lena found a job. Perhaps adversity would teach them what generosity never could. The value of honest work and independence. Some nights, I look at the stars from my balcony and think of the woman I was, a fearful, manipulated woman who believed love had a price. That woman is gone. In her place is someone who understands a fundamental truth. True love never has a price, and freedom is never too expensive. My name is Renate. I am 72 years old, and I have finally learned the most important person to love and protect is myself. After the trial, life settled into a new normal, but the scars of betrayal lingered beneath the surface. I had won my freedom, but the wounds inflicted by those I once loved ran deep. Every morning I woke with a mixture of relief and sorrow, knowing that the family I had sacrificed so much for was gone from my life forever. The apartment near the city center was a fresh start, a place where I could finally live for myself. The walls were filled with light, and the streets buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the silence that had engulfed my old home. I decorated it with the paintings I had begun again, each brushstroke a testament to my resilience. One afternoon, as I sat by the window sipping tea, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I hesitated before opening it, expecting another plea or threat. Instead, it was a simple text. "I'm sorry, Mom. I hope you're well." It was from Max. For a moment, my heart fluttered with a fragile hope. But I quickly reminded myself of the years of pain, the lies, and the manipulation. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Eleanor. "Do you think they'll ever change?" I asked. Eleanor sighed. "People like Max and Lena often don't change until they hit rock bottom. But you've done what you needed to do for yourself?" Her words comforted me. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about them. It was about freeing myself from the chains of resentment. I began volunteering at a local community center, helping other seniors who faced similar struggles. Sharing my story gave me purpose and connected me with people who understood the pain of family betrayal. One day, a woman approached me after a talk I gave about elder financial abuse. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Your story gave me strength," she said. "I'm finally setting boundaries with my son." Her words reminded me that my pain had a purpose, that by standing up for myself, I was helping others find their voice. As the months passed, I traveled more, visiting places I had only dreamed of. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, each city a celebration of my newfound freedom. I painted scenes from my travels, capturing the colors and emotions of a life reclaimed. But even in joy, the past lingered. I often thought about Max and Lena, wondering if they had learned anything from the loss of my support. Had they found the independence they so desperately needed? Or were they still trapped in the cycle of entitlement and greed? One evening, as I prepared dinner, the phone rang. "It was Lena, Renate," she said hesitantly. "I want to talk. Can we meet?" I paused, the old wounds aching. But I knew this was a test, a way to manipulate me back into their lives. "I'm sorry, Lena," I replied firmly. "I've moved on. I wish you well." I hung up, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. I had learned that some bridges are better left unburned, but others must be crossed only once. My friends from the garden club became my chosen family. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and simple afternoons filled with laughter and stories. Their support was a balm to my soul, a reminder that love could be genuine and unconditional. One afternoon, as we sat in the sunlit garden, Alfreda shared a story from her youth. "True strength," she said, "is knowing when to hold on and when to let go." Her words resonated deeply. I had held on for too long to a family that never truly loved me. Now, I was learning to let go and embrace the life I deserved. I began writing a memoir, hoping to share my journey with others. Each chapter was a step toward healing, a way to transform pain into power. The process was cathartic. I poured my heart onto the pages, recounting the moments of betrayal, the fight for justice, and the triumph of self-love. As I wrote, I realized that my story was not just about loss, but about rebirth. About finding light in the darkest places and reclaiming the narrative of my life. One evening, as I finished a chapter, I looked out at the stars. The sky was vast and endless, a reminder that my future was still unwritten. I was no longer the woman who believed love had a price. I was a woman who knew her worth, who had fought for her dignity, and who was ready to live fully and freely. My name is Renate. I am 72 years old. And this is just the beginning. The days that followed were filled with a quiet strength I had never known before. I woke each morning with a sense of purpose, no longer weighed down by the expectations and demands of those who had taken so much from me. Instead, I focused on the things that brought me joy: painting, gardening, and spending time with my new circle of friends who truly cared. One afternoon, as I was arranging fresh flowers in my living room, the phone rang again. This time, it was a number I recognized but hadn't heard from in months, my sister Diana. "Renate," she said warmly, "I've been thinking about you. How are you really doing?" Her voice was a balm to my soul. We talked for hours, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. For the first time in years, I felt the comfort of family, not the family I had lost, but the one I had rediscovered. Diana reminded me of the importance of self-love and boundaries. "You've done what many can't," she said. "You stood up for yourself when it mattered most." Her words echoed in my heart. I realized that reclaiming my life wasn't just about cutting ties with those who hurt me. It was about embracing the love and respect I deserved. Inspired by our conversation, I decided to host a small gathering at my apartment. I invited Eleanor, Alfreda, Cynthia, Maria, and Carmen, women who had become my pillars of strength. That evening, as we shared food and stories, I felt a profound sense of belonging. These women had faced their own battles, and together we celebrated resilience, friendship, and the power of standing up for oneself. We toasted to new beginnings and the freedom to live life on our own terms. As the months passed, I continued to build a life filled with meaning and joy. I took art classes, joined volunteer groups, and even started a small garden project in the community, helping other seniors find peace and purpose. One day, while volunteering, I met a young woman named Sarah. She reminded me of myself, kind-hearted but trapped in a toxic family dynamic. We became fast friends, and I shared my story with her, hoping to inspire her to find her own strength. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Your story gives me hope," she said. "I'm finally ready to set boundaries with my family." Her words filled me with pride. I realized that my journey was not just about me. It was about helping others break free from the chains of manipulation and abuse. But even as I embraced this new chapter, the past occasionally cast a shadow. One evening, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Max and Lena. They were demanding repayment of the money I had given them over the years, threatening legal action. I showed the letter to Mr. Weber, who reassured me. "You have documentation of every payment, every gift. They have no legal claim." Still, the letter stirred old fears, but I refused to let it shake my resolve. I responded through my lawyer, firmly denying their demands and warning them against further harassment. The letter was a reminder that some battles never truly end. But I was no longer the woman who would be intimidated. I was a warrior, armed with truth, dignity, and the support of those who loved me. As winter approached, I found comfort in the simple pleasures: warm blankets, good books, and the company of friends. One snowy evening, Eleanor and I sat by the fire, sipping tea and reflecting on the journey. "Renate," she said softly, "you've transformed pain into power. You're an inspiration." Her words touched me deeply. I realized that my story was bigger than me. It was a beacon for anyone struggling to reclaim their life. I began to receive messages from viewers who had watched my story online. They shared their own experiences of family betrayal and financial abuse, thanking me for giving them hope. Each message was a reminder that I was not alone, and neither were they. Together, we formed a community of survivors, bound by strength and the desire for freedom. One day, as I walked through the city park, I saw a mother and her young son playing. The boy ran to his mother, hugging her tightly. I smiled, remembering the boy Max once was, the boy who had called me the best mom in the world. Though that boy was gone, I held on to the hope that love, true love, could still exist in the world. I had learned that love could not be bought or forced. It had to be earned and freely given, and most importantly, I had learned to love myself. My name is Renate. I am 72 years old, and I am finally free. Freedom, I discovered, was not just about money or legal battles. It was about reclaiming my identity, my voice, and my peace. It was about waking up each day knowing I was enough without having to prove it through endless sacrifices or financial support. In the months that followed, I continued to build a life that honored my worth. I traveled to places I had only dreamed of, from the sunlit streets of Florence to the serene beaches of Santorini. Each journey was a celebration of my resilience, a reminder that life could be beautiful even after heartbreak. I painted scenes from my travels, capturing the colors and emotions of a life reborn. My art became a language through which I expressed my pain, my hope, and my joy. It was therapy, passion, and freedom all rolled into one. One afternoon, while exhibiting my paintings at a local gallery, I met a young artist named Mia. She was vibrant, full of dreams, but carried a sadness in her eyes that reminded me of my younger self. We talked for hours, sharing stories of struggle and survival. Mia told me about her own family challenges, about feeling invisible and used. I saw in her the same spark I once had, the desire to break free and live authentically. I encouraged her to pursue her art, to find strength in her creativity, and to never let anyone dim her light. Our friendship blossomed, and through Mia I found a renewed sense of purpose. Helping others heal became as important as healing myself. I started hosting workshops for women who had experienced family betrayal and financial abuse. We shared stories, tears, and laughter. We learned to set boundaries, to say no without guilt, and to embrace self-love. Each woman's journey was unique, but the pain was universal. Together, we formed a sisterhood of survivors, bound by courage and compassion. One evening, after a particularly moving session, a woman named Grace approached me. "Renate," she said, "your story gave me the strength to stand up to my own family. I'm finally free." Her words filled me with gratitude. I realized that my pain had transformed into power, not just for me, but for countless others. As the years passed, I continued to live boldly and authentically. I surrounded myself with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could give. I learned to cherish solitude, to find joy in my own company, and to trust my instincts. Sometimes, I still thought about Max and Lena. I wondered if they had learned the lessons I had tried to teach them. But I no longer carried the burden of their choices. I had forgiven them, not for their sake, but for mine. Forgiveness freed me from bitterness and opened my heart to new possibilities. One crisp autumn morning, as I walked through the park, I felt a profound sense of peace. The leaves crunched beneath my feet, and the air was filled with the scent of earth and change. I stopped by a bench and sat, watching families play and couples stroll hand in hand. I smiled, knowing that my story was not defined by loss, but by the strength to rise above it. I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had reclaimed her life. My name is Renate. I am 72 years old, and I am living proof that true freedom begins when you choose to love and protect yourself. If you've ever felt invisible, used, or unappreciated, know this: you are not alone. Your worth is not measured by what you give, but by who you are. Stand tall. Set your boundaries. Embrace your power, because the most important person you will ever love is yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please share it with others who need to hear it. Together, we can break the silence, end the abuse, and build a world where love is unconditional and freedom is a right. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.